Hey, what's up Agile people? This is David. Welcome back to the Agile Broadcast. In a previous video, I talked about the difference between outcome and output. Well, if that's a topic of interest to you, stay tuned because in this follow-up video, I will show you 3 tips on how to get your teams and organization more outcome-driven. Let's go! So John Wooden, the famous American basketball coach, once said, "Don't mistake activity for achievements." And this is where the difference between output and outcome becomes crucial. Now, I've already presented these terms in a previous video. If you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you go and watch that first and then come back here. The conclusion of that video was that outcome, so focusing on achievement, is superior to focusing on output, where you basically focus on activities only and, well, hope for the best. How do you actually do this? How do you get there? How do you become outcome driven? So here I've got 3 suggestions for you and we're going to go through them one by one. Number 1, defining what success actually means. So you can tell a great deal about an organization by what it celebrates. Let me show you 2 examples to illustrate what I mean. So here's a notification about a release to production, the kind of notification you would see on Slack or Microsoft Teams. The engineers, the developers, the testers are probably all very happy that it went well. It was such an important release. Everyone worked really hard, but now their work was done. So they decided to get together and celebrate with a release party. Now let's compare this to, say, an email that you receive from a user, a stakeholder, praising how cool and useful the product actually is. Now, I would argue that is true success, an actual positive business impact, and that needs to be celebrated.
The point here is that good teams will celebrate a release, but great teams will celebrate a positive business impact instead.
Now, get it, it's rare when a user can directly send an email to a development team. Often it will end up with, let's say, the marketing team, and if you're lucky, the product owner. And yet these kind of feedback are rarely shared with the developers, thinking they just won't be interested. And that's very sad in my opinion. Now, tip number 2, fixing the mismatch between prioritization rigor and validation rigor. What do I mean by this? Well, prioritization is about knowing what to build next. Validation is about making sure that what we've built was the right thing to build. I see a lot of rigor, generally speaking, with prioritization and planning. In fact, companies spend a lot of time doing this, huge amounts of time. But how much time do you spend validating things? Or do you just build stuff and, hope for the best? And to fix this mismatch, you have to incorporate outcome thinking into planning and review. This means planning validation as a thing that you do all the time. For every initiative, every story that you have. You wouldn't not plan testing activities, would you? Well, in an outcome-driven organization, validation is a crucial part of everything they do. And yeah, that's right. This might mean including data about conversion rates, traffic data, feature usage, etc., etc. If you hoped that a feature would increase the traffic, let's see the numbers. This way you can drive the review into a much more meaningful, outcome-driven discussion. If you want to support the channel, there's 2 easy things you can do. Click the like button if you like the video, and of course, click on subscribe and hit that bell button so you can get notifications when a new video is out. Now, tip number 3, outcome-driven sprint goals. If you're familiar with Scrum, you will probably know about the concept of sprint goal. A sprint goal is essentially the objective that a Scrum team gives itself to accomplish within a sprint. And having one gives tons of benefits. It's like a North Star for the team. It helps you focus. During the daily stand-up, for example, you can check whether you're on track or not. You can check whether what you're doing is actually going to help achieve the sprint goal. And it really helps with having a coherent sprint backlog and not just a random collection of work.
Wait a minute, Doc!
Alright, I know if you don't have a sprint goal, it's most likely not totally random. Yeah, if your product backlog is prioritized and ordered, then the next set of features or stories or tickets, what have you, in your product backlog is most likely going to be related or about the same feature, or at least about the same sort of aspect of the product. But in reality, a lot of teams are playing what I call Tetris with their sprint planning. People are trying to fill their sprint until they're full, chasing this target velocity. I've even seen teams saying things like, we've got a gap of 5 story points to fill the sprint. And then everybody's looking desperately in the backlog for a story that fits exactly 5 points. So you end up with a mismatch of a bit of this and a bit of that, a patchwork of stuff. It's very hard then to come up with a meaningful sprint goal. Or the sprint goal is the same as the work itself. By that I mean the goal is, well, to do the work that we decided to do, which essentially means there is no goal really. So what I've just described, all these anti-patterns like chasing a velocity, not having a sprint goal at all, playing Tetris while doing planning, or trying to find a sprint goal after you've decided what already goes in the sprint, these are very much patterns you see when the mindset is about output and not outcome. So if you want to be outcome driven, you need to have outcome driven sprint goals. And that is to say goals that are oriented towards the product itself. And this outcome-based sprint goal should be the first thing you define at the start of a sprint planning session. Even before looking at what stories you might take on. The outcome is deciding what activities you do, not the other way around. Now if you want to see more about that, have a look at this video from Joshua Partogi from Scrum Master in Black. It goes into a lot more details about this. It's a very interesting video, I recommend it. Now that's it for this video, thank you so much for watching. And if you'd like more on that topic, let me know in the comments below and I can dig more into it in future videos. Thank you for stopping by and see you in the next video.